All right, so the big news of the day today, we found out about K-State Stanford. It is going to kick at 11 a.m. on FS1. It's a total drag. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat that aspect of it at all today. You were hoping for much, much better. You were hoping for prime time or at least an afternoon slot on either ESPN or Network TV. And seeing what happened with the rest of the Big 12 TV schedule is enough to just be maddening about how it is that it worked out like this. However, do not think that this makes it all of a sudden the wrong decision to go play the game at Jerry World. I still fully support the decision. It's quite simple, really. There are between 1 and 2 million reasons as to why it's the right decision above all else. But I'll get to that in just a moment. Let's walk through here real quick. I will say, as disappointing as it is, and as much as a game like West Virginia, Maryland really does not do anything for me at all, even as just like a casual, neutral college football observer, it is fairly easy to see how we got here, right? Like, K-State and Stanford are they're not very mainstream brands in the college football world. Look at the Vegas over-under win totals that we just saw this past week. I guess it wasn't Vegas, it was DraftKings. I don't know, does that technically count as Vegas? This is where I'm not enough of a gambling dude. But Stanford's win total was projected over-under at 3.5. 3.5. Like, this isn't even all on K-State. Some of this is on Stanford and what the perception is of Stanford nationally. But 3.5 is the over-under for their wins. And then K-State was 5.5. Now, we had a long discussion about that. I think it's a pretty easy hit for the over if you're somebody that wants to take the over on 5.5 K-State wins. But that's still what the perception is right now, that like that would be the way to split it and get the most money on both sides from Vegas' standpoint, is to put it at 5.5. So that's a reality of where the Cats are. Look, this team won 4 games last year. So you can understand why even with a quarterback returning from injury here that a gambling site would look at it and say, hey, 5.5. So you have two teams with a combined guesstimated total of 9 wins basically over under here from Vegas. Not two teams that are going to be drawing a ton of eyeballs based on what people expect them to be next year. Now, on top of that, what brand of football do both K-State and Stanford play? It's like the knockdown, drag-out, slugfest football. Like, even when people know that it's good, it's not the most fun thing in the world to watch. Okay? Like, even if you can respect it, it's not the most fun thing in the world to watch. And that, I think, also hurts here. If you're a TV exec looking at this being like, do people want to watch a 2-hour game with A-gap power being run 70% of the time on offense? Both of these teams will sit there and line it up and just ram it down your throat in A-gap power. It's not quite the triple option. It's not like watching Army-Navy necessarily, but, at times it's not say the same as another game here that we're going to complain about, Texas Tech and Houston. Texas Tech and Houston, you'd expect to be much more up and down, exciting brand of football. So I understand. I do understand. As upset as I am by it, I do get how that happens. And the rest of the schedule here, like Oklahoma-Tulane gets 11 o'clock on ABC. I mean, it just makes you want to pull your hair out. You'd much rather have the ABC time slot, even if it's also at 11 a.m. than you would FS1. Oklahoma-Tulane, I get it. They're Oklahoma. They're going to be a preseason top 5 team. ESPN had them preseason number 1. So I suppose I get it, but that's pretty brutal. West Virginia, Maryland, 2:30 on ESPN. Also brutal to me because I just don't. West Virginia is a team about the same caliber as K-State. They're pretty blah to me, and trying to watch them. They didn't have a very good offense really last year or either the last 2 years. And then Texas Tech and Houston, 6 o'clock on ESPN. Look, Matt Wells is... Texas Tech almost fired him this past offseason. Like, they have not been very good, and this is not, I don't know. Look, Houston's all right. They don't have De'Aaron King anymore. I don't know a ton about them, but this is not Tom Herman Houston when they're winning 11 games every single year necessarily right now. And then it looks like basically what happened in the Big 12 is that the best time slot, like top billing, went to Louisiana and Texas at 3:30 on Fox. So it appears K-State was very far away from that actual time slot. 3:30 on Fox. Steve Sarkisian debut. Never underestimate the power of Texas and what that storyline will generate. It's still the right decision to play this game, though. Okay? I still support this 1,000,000%. Actually, between 1,000,000 and 2,000,000%. because that's the payday that they're going to take home. The raw gross payday is $2.8 million for K-State here. And I know there was talk, well, certainly what Gene Taylor had said was that they were estimating at one point about $2.2 million for like a net payday there. So then, all right, what do you typically make on a home game? I've heard anywhere between $500,000 to $800,000. So, no matter what way you slice it, even if we're going to be generous on what they would make on a typical home game, like we're into seven figures. It's over $1 million, well over $1 million likely that K-State will make off of this game. When you already have 7 other home games, that's the time to do it. That's the time to strike while the iron is hot, so to speak, and go recoup some money. Gene Taylor has a responsibility to the athletic department, which is going to be in a big deficit. It's going to take a couple of years, as he just told us earlier on the show. It's going to take a couple of years to recoup some of those losses that they've had from the pandemic this year. Gene Taylor has a responsibility there. I mean, is it a responsibility to the city to give the extra home game? I would say no. It would be great if you could, but when this opportunity comes up, go take that money. Now, another part of the reason that you thought you should go take this game is, hey, there's going to be a lot of extra exposure that goes along with it, and I think that part is important, and I still think some of that is there. You're still going to a major recruiting hub. You can still say to kids from DFW, from the Dallas area, like, hey, we go and play games at Jerry World. When we get asked to do that, we go do it. Your current players on the roster are getting fired up about that. We've already seen that come out in their social media. Like, there are still ancillary benefits in addition to the money, not in spite of or despite. In addition to the money, there are still other benefits that come along with this. You're not going to get the maximum value of exposure here because of the TV slot and time and all of that. But that doesn't mean it's all gone. And that doesn't mean that the money's gone, man. Those checks are still going to cash. And how much complaining do we hear these days about money in the athletic department? Like whether it's been, there's been a lot of talk about the football staff. We've seen some changes on the football staff, but just changes in job title. We didn't see anybody fired. We didn't see any new coaches hired. There's been the chatter about some of that financially motivated, that wasn't available there to do that, to do everything that you want to do. Well, if you're somebody that's beating that drum and complaining, I better not see you on Twitter with those Twitter fingers complaining about still moving this game and taking the $1.5 million, whatever that payday is going to be. Because that's money that can go straight back to the athletic department, right? Or what about football support staff? That's another thing I hear all the time. Why is there not support staff? Why is there not more support staff? And it does sound like we are going to get a little bit more of that here in the near future. There's a nugget to you to go check out KSO if you're not a KSO subscriber. But if you're somebody that's been beating that drum, we need more help for Taylor Bratt. We need more help recruiting-wise. You should love this. You should love this. Go take the check. Go take the check. Get the money. Still a selling point to recruits. Still a selling point to your own team to be fired up. Still taking advantage of a very cool and rare opportunity to go play this game. And it's still a massive payday coming off of a pandemic in an athletic department where everybody's main complaint, seemingly, outside of, I guess, if you're a Bruce Weber hater, has been that there's not enough money being put back into the programs, that there's not enough money being put back into the programs to let them do what they want to do, have a fair shake, do as much as they can recruiting-wise. So it's still absolutely the right decision to go play this game, even though it sucks. And this does suck. Hard. This is not good news. I did not love seeing this at all. You're like 5th in the pecking order on week 1 of the Big 12 college football TV slate. But maybe that's more than anything just a reality check about where K-State's at. I mean, that's a whole other enchilada and a whole other part of this conversation that could come into play here. What does this say about K-State's place in the college football world? That you can't, in a game against Stanford, elevate yourself above Texas Tech in Houston or West Virginia and Maryland? Yeesh. Yeesh. Just go win the game against Stanford. That's all I have to say. Win the game against Stanford. There's been so much consternation about this game. There's been so much consternation since October 24th, the last time K-State won a game against Kansas. Lots of recruiting frustration along the way. Just go win this game against Stanford, no matter when it's played, no matter who sees it. Everyone will feel a lot better if K-State goes out and just gets this win. God, we're going to have to listen to Tim Brando in week 1, aren't we?